Namaskar viewers. Hello and welcome to Sunset TV. I'm Tina Jha. You're watching Perspective. Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned home on Wednesday, wrapping up his two-day state visit to Bhutan, marking yet another milestone in the special relationship between the two neighbours, a partnership built on shared values, cultural affinity and a common vision for progress and prosperity. The Prime Minister was in Bhutan from the 11th to 12th of November at the invitation of the King, Jigme, Khesar, Namgyel, Wangchuck. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi joined the people of Bhutan in celebrating the 70th birth anniversary of His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo at Changlimithang on the 11th of November as the guest of honor.
साथियों, भूटान के हिज मैजेस्टी द 4th किंग का उनका जीवन विजडम, सिंप्लिसिटी, करेज और राष्ट्र के प्रति सेल्फलेस सर्विस का संगम है। उन्होंने 16 वर्ष की बहुत छोटी आयु में ही बड़ी जिम्मेदारी संभाली, अपने देश को एक पिता जैसा स्नेह दिया और अपने देश को एक विजन के साथ आगे बढ़ाया। भारत और भूटान की फ्रेंडशिप को मजबूती देने में भी उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है। आपने जो नींव रखी है उस पर हम दोनों देशों की मित्रता निरंतर फल फूल रही है।
The Prime Minister also participated in the Global Peace Prayer Festival in Thimphu. The King of Bhutan appreciated the presence of the sacred Piprahwa relics of Lord Buddha from India, brought for public veneration during the festival. His Majesty also conveyed heartfelt condolences on the tragic loss of lives in the recent explosion in Delhi. Listening.
Let us all come together and pray for India. Pray for Prime Minister Modi. May all your aspirations, may your vision and your service to India bear fruit. May you overcome each and every single obstacle. And may your dream of a even brighter, stronger, more prosperous India be fulfilled. But above all, we would like to take a moment and pray for the people who sadly lost their lives in Delhi. We'd like to pray for them.
Bilateral discussions between the two sides covered key areas of cooperation along with regional and global issues of mutual interest. Prime Minister Modi reaffirmed India's steadfast support to Bhutan's 13th five-year plan, including the economic stimulus program, reiterating India's commitment to partner with Bhutan in achieving its development priorities and promoting sustainable growth across sectors.
साथियों, आज एनर्जी कोऑपरेशन के साथ साथ भारत और भूटान की कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाने पर भी हमारा फोकस है। हम सभी जानते हैं, कनेक्टिविटी क्रिएट्स अपॉर्चुनिटी and opportunity creates prosperity. इसी लक्ष्य के साथ आने वाले समय में गैलेपू और सामर्थ्य शहरों को भारत के विशाल रेल नेटवर्क से जोड़ने का फैसला लिया गया है।
Let's now take a look at the key outcomes from the visit. Prime Minister Modi and the King of Bhutan jointly inaugurated the 1020 MW Punatsangchhu-II hydroelectric project on the 11th of November, a shining example of the enduring friendship and exemplary cooperation between the two nations in the field of hydropower. The leaders also welcomed the resumption of work on the main dam structure of the 1200 MW Punatsangchhu-I project, which upon completion will be the largest jointly developed hydropower project between India and Bhutan. In fact, both leaders also welcomed the consecration of the Royal Bhutan Temple in Rajgir and India's decision to grant land in Varanasi for the construction of a Bhutanese temple and a guest house. Prime Minister Modi announced the establishment of an immigration check post at Khesar in Assam to facilitate smooth movement of investors and visitors to Gyalpo, along with a 4,000 crore line of credit to support Bhutan's energy sector. 3 key memoranda of understanding were also signed during the visit: an MOU on cooperation in renewable energy, an MOU on cooperation in health and medicine, and an MOU between Bhutan's PEMA Secretariat and India's NIMHANS to build institutional linkages in mental health. We'll now take a closer look at the significance of these announcements and MOUs, and more importantly, how this visit by Prime Minister Modi further reaffirms India's enduring partnership and shared vision with Bhutan across all levels. Joining me on the program are 3 distinguished guests. So let me begin by introducing them to you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the program today Ambassador Manju Seth, former diplomat, Ambassador Sushil Kumar Singhal, former diplomat, and Mr. Pathikrit Pine, Senior Research Fellow, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program to discuss about the recent visit, the state visit of the Prime Minister to Bhutan. In fact, Ambassador Seth, let me begin the program today with you. So from what we heard the Prime Minister speak about the India-Bhutan friendship to the key outcomes and the MOUs that we have seen that have been signed between both countries, this visit in many ways is a reaffirmation of the mutual trust and the friendship that India and Bhutan have shared for decades. In this continuum of relations that we've had with the Himalayan kingdom, what, in your view, made this visit stand out?
As we saw that, this particular visit is focused. It has a certain cultural connect as well as a development partnership. And the MOUs, if you see, are in renewable energy, connectivity, mental health, and general health and medicines. So all these areas, and also in digital infrastructure. So I think all these are pointers to the evolving relationship and friendship and partnership between India and Bhutan, which has, as you very rightly said, decades-long partnership and friendship which we have. And I think it is a very special relationship, especially given what is happening around in the world and in the neighborhood. India-Bhutan have a particularly stable, strong and long-standing relationship, which confirms that the two sides, or both countries, look at each other in every aspect where there is mutual advantage, mutual benefit, and all these MOUs are also to the advantage of Bhutan as well as of India. And the cultural aspect, it again reaffirms the long cultural civilizational ties between Bhutan and India, and each of these, the significance of each of the events that the Prime Minister, attended and spoke at, I think are clear pointers that, this partnership will continue into the future, and we can expect it to grow only stronger, grow from strength to strength.
Okay, Ambassador Singhal, your thoughts on what has helped our partnership with Bhutan grow? In fact, India and Bhutan today describe their ties as exemplary. It's a model for what kind of relations one should have with the neighborhood. What, according to you, are some key factors that have helped both countries preserve this rare and exceptional warmth that we see, and also the trust that we've been able to maintain for years together? Also, how did you see all of these values reflect in the most recent visit of the Prime Minister to Bhutan?
It's a very long question, so I'll answer in parts. Okay, when it comes to why we have this kind of special relationship and how it has been nurtured, everybody is saying that it's a time-tested partnership. Why it is a time-tested? When we look at the history of the relationship, how it evolved. It is started during the British era, when we had signed a treaty in 1910, and it was given status because the British were very powerful. So this treaty was very one-sided, I would say. But in 2007, when we revised the treaty, we treated Bhutan, Bhutan and India were equal partner in the relationship. So, because before that, India was, they were guided by, particularly in the foreign affairs, guided by India. But in 2007, Bhutan and India agreed that, Bhutan will have an independent foreign policy. And mind you, in 1971, India is the only country which encouraged Bhutan to become member of United Nations. So India always believed in an equal partnership. So that is the foundation. Apart from that, we have old civilizational link. Buddhism is the anchor on which the both sides work. Like this even during the recent visit, when we see that it was not merely a diplomatic visit or a strategic visit, it was a people to people contact. Because if you see, the most of the contact were people centric. What Prime Minister did, he participated in the festival, Global Peace Festival. He participated in the 70th birthday of the fourth king, and also he emphasized himself, that we are with Bhutan in every way. Bhutan is, as we know, is graduating from LDC to, so it needs a model and help. And India is always a role model for Bhutan. The way we have helped them, as you are already pointed out, slowly, like today, when we talk the hydropower, this contributes about 30% of the GDP of the Bhutan and 40% of the revenue. So India is the biggest beneficiary also, biggest helper also, because these all power project, 4 power project which has been executed so far, has been executed with the help of India. And India is the one buying. So it both benefits. The Bhutan benefits in terms of revenue, and India benefits in terms of the clean energy. So India has always been very careful and ensuring that it's a win-win situation for the both sides. So that is the foundation. When it comes to the present visit of the Prime Minister, as I said, is not merely diplomatic, it's or strategic or concerned with the economic. Of course, number of MOUs have been signed for which and they're all in the priority areas of Bhutan. Like the example we mentioned about the Gyalpo. Gyalpo is the economic zone which Bhutan is developing, and India is helping by providing not only the ICP but also the rail link, which will link Assam and northeast region with Bhutan's economy, and both economy will benefit with that. Similarly, in the field of we are helping them in the digital economy. We are talking about the space cooperation. So we are not only in the traditional area, but also in the new areas. India is helping, and both countries are working together. And this is one place where we find that spiritualism and culture goes hand in hand with the economy. So that is the foundation, and that has what has been reinforced by this visit of the Prime Minister Modi to Bhutan. And Bhutan, how much they value the visit of the Prime Minister is that, when the Prime Minister received him, he was seen off by the king himself. Normally, it's a break of protocol, out of respect. So it clearly shows the depth and the extent to which Bhutan values India's relationship. Similarly, India values this relationship with Bhutan because it's a part of not only the Look East policy but also neighborhood first policy. And Bhutan, this is one of the best example I can say.
You're right, Ambassador. In fact, I recall that the Indian ambassador to Bhutan, when he was addressing the press conference after the Prime Minister's visit, he did specifically assert on why it's important to look at the importance of the Prime Minister of a country first welcoming Prime Minister Modi at a time when the functions of the birth anniversary, the 70th birth anniversary, was already taking place at the stadium. But despite that, he came himself to receive Prime Minister Modi and accord him the guard of honor. And the point that you mentioned, that even it's important to look at it in context of how it adds more strength and value to the partnership that we are talking about. But before we delve into the emerging areas in which we've expanded our cooperation that you highlighted, Mr. Pine, coming to some of the key outcomes, and I'll start with the inauguration of the Punatsangchhu-II hydroelectric project, also the resumption of the Punatsangchhu-I. How do you see it, these projects reinforcing Bhutan's economic stability to begin with, but also India's role as a trusted development partner?
Good evening. See, I think the most important part of this relationship is that both sides do realize that, like human beings, countries also evolve, and that's the reason why Bhutan started diversifying and expanded its foreign policy under strategy, expanded its relationship with other countries. India did realize and understood the implications and the importance of it for Bhutan. At the same time, Bhutan, while having good relation with others or expanding, deepening relationship with others, never undermined the importance of India. So they also kept on simultaneously deepening engagement with India, because they know that come what may, this is one relationship which has withstood the sand dunes of time, and it would survive and exist for eternity. So when you talk about what has the implications, the most profound implication is the economic stability that India gives to Bhutan. The hydroelectricity is something which has benefited both the countries. There is a very big requirement for clean energy in India. It does benefit India by procuring the electricity from Bhutan. At the same time, it is in India's interest to see that there is economic stability and democratic stability in Bhutan, because if we look at what is happening in the immediate neighborhood or in other parts of the world where unfortunately there are foreign elements trying to do regime change operations as part of the containment strategy of emerging and emerging powerhouses of the world, including India. So we see in that context the fact that Bhutan has remained surprisingly stable. A lot of credit goes to the leadership of Bhutan, culture of Bhutan, and the fact that these economic agreements and economic relationship has been taken forward in the right context. Also, if you look at it, it's not just the hydroelectric projects. Also, if you look at it, the manner in which India has institutionalized the supply of essential commodities and fertilizer to Bhutan, that has benefited them, and that has been reflected in the statements by the Bhutanese as well. So while hydroelectricity is important, the fact that issues like science, technology, engineering and mathematics or other areas of governance are also being explored, because for a country like Bhutan as well, their young generation has their own aspirations. So tomorrow they would look for more. They may not be content with merely Bhutan being at the top of the global happiness index. So I think this important aspect of hydroelectric agreements, it may sound boring that what's new about it. It is something that has been going for a long time. But the potential of Bhutan as a hydroelectric generator is still probably not explored fully. So these new projects and more on which MOUs have been signed will help Bhutan to increase its own GDP, through which it can invest so that its new generation does not get carried away the way we have seen they got carried away in some other countries. So I think maintaining stability is one of the most important reasons why these projects are important, but probably in future it may not get restricted to this end only. There has to be other areas, avenues where there has to be more cooperation, primarily because to take care of the aspirations of the young generation of Bhutan, who would look for equal opportunities as in India. And the most important part is that there is no donor, recipient, brother, big brother, small brother dimension of this relationship. Both countries respect each other, and this is one which is a lesson for others. The asymmetric aspect of these kind of relationships, where there is a huge country and a relatively geographically or GDP-wise smaller country, maintaining brotherhood and ensuring that nothing can come in between. I think this has a lot of positivity for many of the other countries to use as a template.
Rightly said. I think the expansion of collaboration in renewable energy areas like mental health through the MOUs that I earlier spoke about, these areas certainly reflect a more people-centric, more forward-looking phase in the India-Bhutan relations, something that Ambassador Singhal and Mr. Pine highlighted. Ambassador Seth, there's also growing cooperation in STEM, fintech and also space. It reflects Bhutan's technological aspirations and something that Mr. Pine highlighted, India's growing role as an enabler, where we are not the big brother, we are just helping them, assisting them in realizing their aspirations. How significant is this pivot towards knowledge and innovation diplomacy, and something that India has stood for, not just in context of Bhutan, but also in context of other developing countries in the global south, following the principle of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam?
Absolutely, you are very right. India's policy has been clear on this. Knowledge is to be shared, jointly developed, and with a focus on innovation. So absolutely, with Bhutan, we are following the same policy. And as far as space is concerned, we have already developed a joint satellite, which was launched, I think, 2 years ago. And there's another collaboration ongoing in the space sector. Also in education, a lot of science, technology, and the innovative kind of areas where we are helping in capacity building, and scientists and students and universities from both sides are collaborating to jointly develop new technologies, and in every area, in IT and in space. And if you look at in renewable energy also, we're talking of green hydrogen, we're talking of biomass generation of energy. So in that, the private sector is also coming in. And for all this, it's not only just the traditional existing technologies, but new technologies which will be jointly developed depending on the suitability and adaptability in Bhutan. And I think that is another positive development, where both sides work together to innovate and to jointly come up with new ideas and new products in STEM, in education, in healthcare even. There's also the linkage to the India's knowledge network, and so that all universities and schools in Bhutan can be interlinked to that. And there's constant exchange and exchange of ideas and information, and new ideas and innovation. I think these are all very important from both sides. And as very rightly mentioned by other panelists, all these are mutually beneficial. And we would like Bhutan to continue to look and to work with India, but of course it will continue to also look at other countries. It will collaborate with other countries. But we would still, like to have our special partnership continue, despite its engagement, despite its collaborations and interactions with other countries, because that's what it believes is in its benefit. But for India and Bhutan to collaborate on newer technologies, including the rupee system was introduced, between banks earlier. Now we are going on to the digital payments, the UPI to be operational in both countries. So all the digital network, the digital infrastructure to be established, which will be able to ensure immediate payments, including trying to put the QR codes from Bhutan and to align them with the Indian system. So I think a lot of fintech and renewable energy, in science and technology, innovation in IT, in space, across the board, all emerging and innovative technologies will be, we will of course, where we have strengths, we will share with them, and where they have strengths, we work together to come up with better products. And I think it's going to be a positive and win-win situation for both sides. And the youth of Bhutan, the young people of Bhutan, definitely are looking at trying to further improve their own prospects for work, for development for their country, and the fact that they have the GDP more rather than as not only in monetary terms, but as gross national happiness. And that's an important indicator, and it's an important aspect of joint innovation. It's all environment friendly. It's not whatever innovation and whatever comes in is environment friendly. And as you are aware, Bhutan is the first country to, I think, amongst the first countries to be net zero.
Yes.
Carbon emission. So all these aspects, come together to in this relationship, and I think it's across the board that we are collaborating, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, so while Ambassador, you highlighted the digital and economic integration aspect, another specific announcement, and this relates to integration on the infrastructure front, is the 4,000 crore line of credit. The focus has been on connectivity through rail, road, also border infrastructure. A classic example of how it in many ways reflects India's intent to integrate Bhutan more closely with India's northeast. Mr. Pine, how do you see this shaping regional growth for India, but also strategic linkages?
So let me put it this way. See, first and foremost, when you talk about India investing that much of money for infrastructure development, giving letter of credit, making UPI, institutionalizing it in Bhutan, what happens is that their dependence on foreign exchange reserve to actually get critical equipment or buying critical equipment from abroad with precious dollar comes down. I think that helps them a lot when they can exchange with rupee. Number two is that for Bhutan, which is a landlocked country, getting access to sea is very, very critical. Today or tomorrow, their aspirations, as I mentioned, is going to rise. They will try to develop their own food processing zones. They will try to have their own export processing zones. Connectivity becomes very critical. You just can't do everything through air link only. And that's why these rail connections that are being developed will play a very, very critical role in ensuring, number one, connectivity between people. Number two, in ensuring that whatever finished products they eventually make today or tomorrow, that gets the right kind of access, not only just to in the Indian market, by getting access to northeast or this side in West Bengal, also eventually get into the ports and outside, to the rest of the world. In addition to this, if you look at the whole paradigm or the cooperation structure of BIMSTEC itself has been a very critical. BIMSTEC itself has been a very critical aspect of India taking along all the countries in the region for technical, economic cooperation. So in that respect, infrastructure build-up has always been a very critical part of it, and therefore I'm not surprised that India is heavily investing in that region, primarily because it is in India's interest to ensure that Bhutan remains as it is, because Bhutan has its own challenges that it faces from China. The entire power structure of Asia is going through a fundamental transition, and for countries like Bhutan, they have to balance with both India and China. So to ensure that Bhutan's access to sea becomes much more convenient, to ensure that Bhutan's access to India becomes much more convenient, is of paramount interest to India. Another important point we have to keep in mind, I do interact with a lot of people from Nepal and Bhutan. They love their own countries, but they do not look at India as a separate entity at all. They as if demand and they feel that they deserve more from this country. And so that's the reason what happens is that tomorrow it becomes imperative for us to ensure that we create funds or any kind of capital for facilitating their startups, for facilitating their export processing zones. And these are important primarily because we do not want in Bhutan what happened in Nepal. And there are elements whose primary objective is to contain India from different sides. Be rest assured, there are countries in the world who are not very happy with this brotherhood of relationship that we have between India and Bhutan. It is also very good with Nepal, but unfortunately some elements try to completely ruin it altogether. So we need to ensure that our northern flank remains secure. Bhutan has been sort of, as a sovereign country, a sort of a very critical buffer zone. It has prevented India from directly having some kind of face-off with China during the Doklam situation. So infrastructure build-up, cooperation enhancement, facilitation of for aspirations of the new generation, are all very critical, and the fact that Bhutan is looked upon as a separate relationship is reflected the way in our annual budget there is a certain amount of fund that is dedicated for Bhutan. So in their 13th plan, there is a certain amount of economic stimulus which India has pledged. So all I'm trying to say is that India's relationship with Bhutan should not be seen from the mirror or of only hydroelectric power. Hydroelectricity plays a pivotal role perhaps, but other aspects of infrastructure development, human resource development, communication enhancement, ensuring that broadband availability is far more enhanced than what it used to be in the past.
The aspects and the new frontier about which you and both the ambassadors have spoken about, which go beyond our hydropower and infrastructure engagement, is something which is quite significant in how our relations have evolved. But in context of Bhutan's geographic sensitivity and India's security interests, I'd like to take one last question from you, Ambassador Singhal, and I would like to relate it to the Gyalpo Mindfulness City. The Prime Minister described it in his speech as a visionary initiative of His Majesty the King. The Prime Minister also went on to announce the establishment of an immigration check post at Khesar in Assam. He said this will facilitate smooth movement of the visitors and the investors to Gyalpo. Help us and our viewers understand how does India's support for this project indicate about our evolving partnership with Bhutan, part one, but in the context of wider regional dynamics, how critical is it, if you could explain that to us?
This we all know that the strategic position of Bhutan in Himalayas. It's a sandwich. It's a buffer. Sandwich is a wrong term. It's a buffer between India and China. But earlier it was Tibet. So it's a we already had in 2017 this Doklam incident where because the land border between China and Bhutan is disputed. And then we have a Siliguri corridor next to it. So for us, very strategically is very crucial area. And development of Bhutan, economic development Bhutan is very important for India and of course for Bhutan, because when we're talking about this linkage, this railway linkage will help not only in the economic integration of the two countries, particularly in the region, but also help in other aspects, because so far the linkage Bhutan has been facing the problem of how to transport its commodities and other things. Once we have this rail linkage, it becomes very convenient for Bhutan to transport economically its goods to not only to India but also to the third countries, and access to sea will become much easier to that, because that transportation costs at this moment are very high for Bhutan because of the lack of railway link. So railway link will not only help in the development of Bhutan, but and now they have the economic hub in this area, which will be which can develop only when it gets the access to capital, access to manpower, technology, as well as the markets at low cost. So this rail linkage is not only strategically important, but also economically very important for the development of Bhutan, and it will benefit India also, because the economic linkage, this linkage will lead to closer economic linkage with Bhutan or the northeastern region for India.
Yes. Okay, so with that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Time allows us to take up only that much on the program. Thank you once again to all our guests for joining us on this edition of Perspective, sharing your thoughts and views with us and our viewers. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।